we were trying to bring all these sort of YouTube football personalities together. We sort of got True Geordie on board, who was kind of the main guy. Will and Steve are genuine best mates, so it felt like a kind of a really good sort of fit. It was very funny. It was this guy called KSI, and we were like watching the videos, like, oh yeah, it's really good.
This has potentially this could happen.
Yeah, as in that's what #United could become.
Wow. Welcome one and all to the VYB podcast, the first of the new era.
The first.
It is the first.
And what a guest we have as well.
Yeah, that wonderful voice you can hear from you there. There's a reason for our first guest today, right?
Yeah.
There's.
I was the only one available.
You weren't available for a few days. So. But basically, the reason, a little bit of background here. Obviously, you're joined by myself, Horner, and Joe.
You are Horner,
myself, Horner, as in, colon.
Right, okay,
that's what I meant.
Yeah. Good comma.
But basically, what we wanted to do is Joe will back this up as well. We get a lot of messages from people, from fans, always letting us know about how they're trying to look for work in media or trying to get into the industry, trying to get into digital platforms, etc., and always looking for advice on the best ways to do it. Sort of lessons that we've learnt across the course of careers and things like that. And so. We're moving into a new era of the podcast where we want to do more guest-focused stuff, and we want to focus on people that have actually got cool stories to tell, rather
cool
than
jobs.
Yeah, people that have exactly. So,
Right.
in terms of what we get asked about careers and stuff like that, I think there's one person that a few of us actually sort of mentioned to begin with to throw to.
One of the first names on the lineup.
It was one of the first names on the lineup, and that wasn't just because we didn't have to pay him.
Yeah.
Although we're buying him dinner, so
I got a free drink.
he has got a free drink out of
nice.
it.
A nice warm Estrella.
So with that, we introduce to you Mr. Adam Boultwood.
Thanks for having me. What a honour to be the first guest on
the
this
first ever guest.
podcast.
That's very kind.
And I
Yeah.
say
Quite
this in a week where
Great.
me and you are finishing this week on a trip to Berlin, aren't we?
We are.
Why are you going
So,
Berlin?
It's Josh Fleming, who this will be his third shout out on a podcast.
I thought you were going to say his third stag.
His third, and he loves him. He texts me.
Yeah,
He
through
texts
the
me
marriage.
every time saying I've got another shout out there. So this is his
Wow.
third one, but it's his stag do this weekend. So me, you, corporate Dave,
Corporate
We're
Millad,
at
Dave.
the office.
and Bab
Big
are all heading to Berlin.
Where's
Yeah.
is Corporate Dave staying in the same hotel as you?
He
No, I
is.
think he's got 5-star.
He's gone Hilton.
No, is he?
He's
he's probably
got
got
5-star.
Hilton.
That's news
He's
to
a
me.
different man from the days.
Have
we
you not
used
seen the
to work
coats?
together.
God,
Yeah.
I've seen the jumpers,
on him.
the coats as well. Okay.
But yeah, so as we say, we wanted to get Adam in and basically talk to you about your career in the industry because
Wow.
I think in terms of progression, and it's interesting. I was talking to Bab about this off camera before you came in today.
Yeah.
He's done podcast.
Do you know the little subtle reaction?
The little reaction.
Oh yeah. Wow. Great.
Talking to
good one.
Bab about it before and saying that actually they're probably, in terms of someone you've watched go from a company you worked in onto different projects and seem to go, to bigger and better things. Adam's probably one of the best people that we know in the industry that's done that. And we'll get onto that as we go further through. But I'll tell you from now that we're titling this video The Brains Behind XO. Because we need them
Geordie
clicks.
will be happy.
He will be. I'm sure he'd agree. I'm sure if you asked him, he'd agree. It's all bolted. But yeah, so I think just a little bit of background as to how we all know each other, I think is a good place to start. So, and I think this is an interesting dynamic as to why it's good to have Joe here as well, that you are pretty much the founder, the launch pad of
founding
Football Daily.
father.
The founding father of Football
So to
Daily
speak.
is Adam Boultwood.
Yeah.
Way back in...
God, that would have been 2011, maybe even before.
Yeah.
that?
How?
I
Why?
think it's actually before that. I've
Yeah,
been here
it could
6 years.
No, I think it is
now, so-
2011.
Is it
I think it was 2011.
Yeah.
Like, what
Be around
inspired
then.
you to launch Football Daily then,
Yeah.
Boltwood?
I'd love to say it was me who was inspired to launch it, but it was more Diagon of You, the wonderful company that we've all
Yeah.
worked for.
Some of us still do to our peril.
Yeah. They decided to launch a daily football channel, and what name comes to mind when you're launching that?
Did you decide the name?
Football Day. No, I didn't.
Who decided the name?
I'd
Yeah,
like
actually,
to,
that's a good question. Where did it come? Because to be honest, it
no
wasn't
one's gonna
daily as well,
appreciate
was
this.
it?
No,
wasn't
it
daily
definitely
at the
wasn't
time.
daily. That's why I thought, it's not the best name. But I'd be interested to see his reaction. You can ask him, obviously, off camera. I'd be interested to see what he'd say.
What Matt said.
I'd lay that at Adam King. Is who I'd lay
Oh,
that. Obviously,
really?
big man behind the scenes.
Because that has been nothing but detrimental to us.
Yeah.
Enforcing
it's
the
a
fact
big
we
name
have to
to
put
live
it
up
out
to,
there.
100%. But it was a very sort of complicated web of how it all sort of got launched. But the general theme was to do a sort of start producing original football content. It wasn't something that had ever been done at Diagonal View before, and I just remember there's so many names that no one's going to know. But my boss at the time was launching a football channel. He's like, "Yeah, we're going to launch a football channel. We need to hire a producer, someone who could edit, someone who can produce all this sort of stuff." And I was like, "Oh, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll go for it." And that's sort of how I sort of got involved in launching it and starting it. All that.
Is that how you came in at the company? Because you used to work on tens as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So I used to be a researcher.
All-time tens.
All-time
Yeah.
tens,
So there's a lot of different channels that are being produced, but I was sort of in as a researcher originally. And sort of doing scripts and sort of contributing to all the content that gets made here. But then when this opportunity came up, a football channel, producing original football content, I thought, sounds good. Quite like football, so I thought I'd give it a go.
And you yourself, Spurs fan?
Yeah,
Straight off the back
unfortunately.
as well.
I mean, it's been a good sort of 10 years or so as a Spurs fan. Before that, was pretty bleak. But yeah.
It's been a very good last few years, but yeah, I don't remember. I don't know whether there was a crossover when I first joined Diagonal View, because obviously you launched Football Daily, but when Football Daily was originally launched, it was kind of different, wasn't it? I remember seeing like a lot of interviews. I remember Messi versus Ronaldo, which I believe is still our most viewed.
There was a
clip.
lot of press conference footage. I think the next, that's because coming on to that, I think the next question I was going to ask you was, paint us a little bit of the landscape of football and YouTube at that time, because it's very different to what it is now.
Well, originally that channel was, when we sort of launched Football Daily, it wasn't really about YouTube at that time. 2011, it wasn't like that was the focus. That was the main sort of platform where you put your content. It was all these other sort of publishers that probably don't exist now. MSN used to publish a lot of content to
YouTube.
Yahoo.
YouTube wasn't one of our front
That was never the
runners.
focus, because there wasn't really the revenue to be made there.
There's
all these
Yahoo.
different sort of publishers that you syndicated to. You sort of produced the content, which was very press conference based and news based. And it was
Daily
also
Motion was as big as
Daily
YouTube as a
Motion,
platform back
yeah,
then.
100%. So it was all
Jesus,
about making the content for those platforms. That's where it all started. So I don't know if you guys, if they're still live on the channel, but I'm sure if you go back and sort the YouTube uploads on Football Daily by oldest to newest, you'll find all those
I
sorts
think
of
there are
content.
a
Get
few
some
press
Adam Boultwood
conferences.
gold in there.
There is
And
100% Messi versus
But they're
Ronaldo.
they're so old that if you go back there, the aspect ratio is 4:3.
Yeah.
So it's square.
So
As
it's
opposed to
square,
obviously now
yeah.
it's 60.
But I think actually you say it, but Messi versus Ronaldo, that even that is actually a little bit into the lifespan of FD. Like
Is it?
when FD started,
Oh yeah, after.
it was pretty much just what was available on
it's
the
all-
media archive we had at the time, which was press conference footage, training ground stuff.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. There was we were just sort of using what was available to us, and then as YouTube, we realised that there were eyeballs there was views to sort of be gotten. That's when we started to sort of go, okay, what sort of content we can
How do
produce
we
that would
develop
work on
around it?
YouTube, that's geared around search traffic, that's going to work on that platform. But even then, like, no one knew what they were doing. It was like the Wild West. Everyone was just completely blagging.
In terms of it being the Wild West, and you can shut me off quicker because I was meant
Sure
to
we can. Yeah,
I was meant to ask you before we actually started filming about this, but you can say no and we can cut to a different point completely. It's not a
Oh
problem.
no, I don't.
But
I
do
don't
you want to tell us about the infamous Premier League?
So yeah, as I said, it was the Wild
dealings.
West. But it
You
was
don't have
like-
to. You really don't have to. We can cut.
Oh
it's
no,
up to you.
I don't mind. I'm sure it's all resolved. It's fine.
right.
But yeah, I think back then. So we're talking 2011, 2012.
And you're young at this point as well, aren't you?
Oh
You're-
yeah, a lot younger than I was now. Yeah, I was sort of out of uni, and as I say, I'd sort of been working this job for a couple of years, and everyone was sort of testing what worked and what didn't work, but also what you could get away with, and maybe what you couldn't get away with.
Because the rules were. This is even
sketchy.
Even content
Oh, yeah.
ID is either in its infincy or not about at this
That
point.
did
It
not
didn't-
exist
yeah.
at that point.
So you're kind of looking at.
So yeah,
You can get away with whatever you want.
Oh yeah, you might try and put a few Premier League highlights in a video. Roy Keane with that infamous tackle, and see what happens. And maybe there'll be a copyright sort of crisis. Maybe there won't.
But maybe they won't. Maybe they won't mind.
Yeah,
Maybe
it'll be fine.
maybe they definitely won't mind.
Maybe they won't mind.
But it wasn't a copyright crisis like we're used to now.
Oh
where
no.
where
This
you
was
get like a
proper.
striker a notification.
Oh no, this was proper, like sort of on the verge of legal action. So
And when you say on the verge,
I
you
don't
was-
recommend using copyrighted content. Or
Yeah,
I was
definitely,
thinking,
yeah.
do you know what? I think I'll use some highlights and it'll be fine. It won't.
But am I right in saying that someone came to the office, didn't they?
Not that I know of. I just seem to remember being quite panicked and sort of thinking,
wow, see,
this has gone south quickly.
So and our company's bad for this. But there goes the way a story can escalate without the original source.
Yeah.
So when that story was told to me,
and
how it's been told since, was that
so
someone came in and served you
with
papers.
That, as far as I know, that didn't happen. Maybe I've sort of had a blackout, but that did not happen.
Because I remember, like, people all the time comment still on Football Daily videos and probably channels that you've worked in the past saying, why don't you just use clips? Why don't you just use highlights?
People never seem to understand
that
TV companies and media companies pay
billions.
Billions?
Yeah. When Football Daily started, there was no other... There wasn't really any other sort of football channels. Copper 90 came along not long after us.
Yeah, Football Daily was before Copper, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we were just like... It was me and probably Josh, I think, joined us pretty...
Yeah. Josh Fleming. Whose stag we're going to this weekend.
Yeah, he's kind of one of the other guys who sort of helped build FT into what
he was. You run it, and you were running production,
and he was all the social media side of it. But it's just us two, and we didn't know what we were doing really, and we were trying to get views, and we were trying to create content, and like I say, we were all trying to test what worked, what didn't, what you could get away with, what you couldn't get away with, but there was nothing really else out there, so we were all just sort of blagging it. We're all just sort of trying our best, and
figuring it out as you go, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, but when you go back and look at all those old videos and you look at some of the stuff that used to work and what didn't work, it's changed so much in the last sort of 5-6 years. It's come so far.
Do you remember the one clip? Like, was there one clip that had smashed views and you were like, here we go?
Oh yeah, so that would have been 2012 when we made that first Messi Ronaldo video. So,
I was going to ask you, talk us through that. The idea of making that video, but then when that goes live, what was the process like of it blowing up, and how was that for you sitting there watching it? Because it did insane views, didn't it?
So you're saying it's still the most viewed.
I think it's like 70 million or something like that.
No, it's not. There's no way.
My phone's upstairs charging, so
it would have done like 10 max, I would have said. But that was the first time when we so we were using a lot of press conference footage. We were using a lot of sort of training footage and things like that.
It's currently sat on 19 million.
That's insane.
And you said 70.
And it's
I don't know why I said
17 he meant 17.
Yeah, I did. Nice
close.
Nice. But what's that? It's like a minute and a half or something?
It is 19 million views
for a minute and a half video.
Yeah, how long's the video?
1 minute 39. Good memory that.
Perfect.
Decent watch time on
that.
Lad.
Just enough to get an ad in.
But that was the first time where we went, do you know what? We could make like a format, and we could make some original content that wasn't just press conferences.
And repurpose what you had access to
but
into a different format.
Obviously we're in a very nice studio now, and we've got 2 cameras and all that sort of stuff. But at the time, at DV, there was no cameras.
Yeah, literally everything.
It was like an active decision, probably on that video, if not after. Do you want to put a voiceover on it? Like, what if you put a voiceover on it and someone doesn't like your voice, and then you've sort of turned off all that audience? Like, just go with subtitles and just sort of like use text.
Imagine an entire company built on never having someone in front of camera.
Ever.
And at this point, never a voiceover. So literally just an edit with image and video. Like what we now class as the most base level edits that you see was what the whole company was built on. And probably... maybe revenue figures weren't what they were because of ad sales and things like that at the time of digital media.
Yeah.
But probably bringing in more views across the company at that stage of its life, like in comparison to the platform, than we've ever done. With what Tens was doing at that time.
Yeah, that was kind of, as much as there was a lot of sort of restrictions in terms of, say, the lack of resources, you just, you've got a bit of training footage, like what can you do with that? Obviously there's less competition in a sense, because no one was, even that is very primitive, you say, just trying to make Messi versus Ronaldo. It was like a voting mechanic. You could click on it.
Yeah, you could click annotations.
Yeah, and you'd like vote for who
annotations.
The best,
They're gone now, aren't they?
It's like Facebook is now.
Annotations are gone. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Annotations are something that they've even been done away with. But at the time, like, maybe we'll just sort of do that. There wasn't the competition. People weren't even thinking that far ahead. So we were sort of ahead. Even though, obviously now it's like...
But when did it blow? So when you put it out, like, was it an instant hit?
No, I think it was over time, because it's the search traffic that you sort of get from that Messi.
So, but was there a point for you?
That was like a debate that, like, obviously now everyone's Messi Ronaldo. That was a debate that only just started at that time.
And you were also
like,
probably you were the
these
first...
These two are comparable.
Yeah, you were the first YouTube channel, at least. that had made a piece of content.
We were around about a year. We were probably doing that sort of content about 6 months to a year before Copper92, I think, came along in 2012, maybe 2013.
But it's also that once you've got in first, anyone for the next year, 2 years that searches it, whichever video has the first 100k views, you go watch that one. Which means that you almost, as long as you get in first, you set yourself up for some level of continuous success.
Oh yeah, but it's different now in that, you know, it's all about the quality of the content, obviously the watch time, and it's as you say, then it was about who was first and sort of who could sort of get a steal on everyone else and a march on everyone else.
And when did you first introduce faces? Because obviously you talked about it was all edits and clips and primitive VO.
So that was like a real decision where we'd come to the decision to do voiceovers. So we're doing voiceovers as well. That was a real do we or don't we.
You was one of the voices, weren't you? Though?
Oh yeah, but it's more it's like out of necessity as opposed to out of choice. But I think it was, you know, it was around when we started seeing other channels using personalities. It was the first time that Arsenal Fan TV had sort of cropped up, and there were all these different sort of channels that were sort of using faces, and we said, okay, we've got to actually do that. We actually need to buy a camera, maybe that would be good. And then we started trying to introduce faces, introduce shows, and that's when I used to listen to the Football Ramble, which obviously is still a very popular podcast. Marcus Speller was the host of that. So I managed to get in touch with him and get him on.
God, yeah, I forgot Marcus.
Football Daily. So he was the first guy on our wonderfully titled Football Daily Weekly.
Did you come up with that name?
So that was...
How did that name come about?
That
is one of the worst names.
So that was the working title.
It was a joke.
Yeah.
Because it was ridiculous.
At the time, I went to my other boss. And he was like, I was like, oh, so that's the working title. Obviously, got to change that. Like, should we come up with a name? And he was like, oh, no, I like it. It's tongue in cheek. We'll go with that sort of thing.
But so wasn't it as well that when you did the first episode, it was like you made a point of saying, it was a bit, comment down below and tell us.
You sort of had to.
What should we call this?
You sort of had to.
But then no one ever took it on. So for however many episodes that ran, and it ran for a while.
Ran for a while, yeah.
It was Football Daily Weekly.
Yes.
But that was, I think, on the first episode we might have had Robbie and Sam Homewood from Full Time Levels.
That's a big lineup. If you think now, the names.
If you actually go back and look at that, Lawrence from XO was on it quite a lot.
Yeah,
early days.
he that was once upon a time. Marcus Speller was the host, and he was mates with Lawrence.
Yeah.
And one of our guests had dropped out, and I was like, Marcus, like, you need to bring someone from the Ramble because like we really need a guest to fill it out. And he was like, no one from the Ramble is available, but I do have a mate who's really good at talking about football. And I was desperate, and I was like, yeah, go on, just bring him on then. And obviously Lawrence came.
So hang on, was that Lawrence's first?
That's how I met Lawrence. That's how I.
No, but was that his first thing on screen?
He'd sort of done presenting and stuff since university, and he worked on lots of different projects, but that was the first sort of football thing he'd done.
Right, and that's where you met Lawrence.
Yeah, that's where I met him. And
crazy.
I was like, that guy's quite good. And then there was a couple of times where Mark was like, I can't make it because I'm busy, I'm doing the podcast. And I was like, oh, I'll just get the Lawrence guy to do it because he was quite good.
It's Lawrence McKenna we're talking about.
Yeah, Lawrence McKenna.
The Lawrence McKenna.
That's crazy. You just flukily met him out there. Because also, I've seen a lot of videos back then of, was it Roman Kemp you doing?
Roman Kemp did a couple. So yeah, Roman Kemp, obviously a really sort of successful radio DJ now. He was just... he just DM'd us on Twitter and was like, oh, I really want to come on Football Daily Weekly. I've seen the show. Can I come on? And we were like, yeah, come on then. Like, why not?
At the time, you were just looking for, like, who can we mix it up with?
Yeah, we were like, okay, we need different sort of guests. That's how we met at the time. Squawker Dave, now Statman Dave.
Squawker Dave.
He was another one. He just sort of reached out. Was like, can I come on the show? You're like, yeah.
Was that his big break as well?
Dave was... No,
I think that was like the first time he'd sort of been on camera consistently.
But he was... So he was big through his Twitter, wasn't he?
Yeah,
because he worked at
doing a lot
Squawker.
of stats, and again, he was probably one of the first guys. Yeah, he was working at Squawker at the time, and he was one of the first guys to sort of really capitalize on stats and analysis on Twitter, and was getting quite a lot of play. But he just sort of said, "Can I come on the show? I'll give you a different angle," and then, he was great.
It's weird because you go back and look at that show, like you say, and it's weird. If you do go back and look at it now, forgive the set because a lot of the time
it's terrible. Like we did it on a green screen in YouTube, and we were like, I was photoshopping the background of it.
I
didn't know what I was doing.
I remember
we got all this like football art that we were photoshopping on.
I remember
the green screen's terrible.
I remember sitting with you at your computer while you were making that backdrop, like on his screen, putting in footballers and whatever. Yeah, and it was so. When you look at it now, it was so basic. Yeah. And he was saying stuff like, "Do you think it's too busy?
Yeah.
Like, are they going to be able to pick us out?" And it's literally just like two images in a photo frame.
That was when we were like, okay, well, that was when we were like, okay, it doesn't look great. They were like, where else could we film it? And there was no studios in Diagonal View. There was nowhere to like film it in the offices. So then we just went around the local pubs. So then we were going around local pubs.
You joke, we're still shooting the pub.
Yeah, there you go. It works. It kind of works.
It's
But it was like we went to
Obviously
the
not
local pub. And the local pub round the corner where Sunday Vibes is still filmed. Was the only place that wasn't going to charge us to film. So we just did it in there.
Was it Gav? Was
Is he the bald
landlord
guy?
It's really quite chubby.
No.
Ooh.
This was like a really scary East End geezer.
The older fella.
Yeah.
He's still there. The guy that comes and makes people move off the
he's
pavement.
quite aggressive.
Yeah.
That was the guy we spoke to. And I was
Crazy.
like, oh, can we, like, we haven't got any money. Can we do it for free? And he was like, yeah. But we used to go down at like 11 a.m.
Yeah, so when it was
empty. He
empty.
was like, it's fine, just do it in there.
Yeah.
So that was like the only place we could film.
Literally always still there.
Still the rule now.
Well, it's like, it works, but at the time, it's like that was the only place we could film. So we sort of moved it all there. No more
Amazing that a show that when you look back at it, you'd go, Jesus, like so budget. Actually,
It's come full circle.
quite a lot of
works,
people
doesn't
from
it?
it went from. Did you ever appear on Football Daily?
Yeah,
Did
like
that-
twice.
Yeah, so there was a
You started
crossover.
after I'd gone, though.
Yeah, I started after you've gone, but
Yeah.
You didn't. You
There's
started
like a week crossover, I think. Maybe.
on like your last week
Yeah.
because my first
I mean,
memory of Joe
I wasn't really here.
was going for
Yeah,
your
this
leave.
is-
Yeah,
so
was going for your
basically,
leaving drinks.
A little bit of backstory. No, it wasn't leaving drinks.
What-
This is the
who's
thing.
leaving drinks?
So to give a bit of backstory, when Boultwood decided to leave our company, did you have a month's notice at the time?
Probably, yeah.
I remember the first week he spent of his notice, you watched the entire first season of Daredevil.
Yeah, it's very good, by the way.
He
First
just-
season Daredevil.
He
was
just
class.
sat.
I
He
don't
just
recommend
sat at
that
his
one.
desk watching Daredevil.
Yeah, I checked.
And
out.
then
Okay.
for the rest of for his last week or maybe like week and a half, I can't remember what it was, but it was basically a rotation of me, Millad, Bab, and Josh and Jackson were on a rotation of tagging in and out of sitting in the pub with him.
Yeah.
Because he just went straight to the pub, sat there all day, and we'd just have to go down, have a pint, and someone would go, I've got to go back to work.
It was
So
really
send Mills
great.
down.
It was a really great notice period.
So
Really
I'd come
best
back
thing
and be like,
of my
Mills,
life.
you've got to go and sit at the pub.
Yeah.
And then he'd go
That's
down.
crazy.
And it was
No,
on
I
one of
love
those
it.
trips at lunch
No,
to
I
the
went.
pub that Dave brought you along, and
Yeah.
it was your first day. So that's where I first
That
met
was
you,
my
and it was
first
for
one.
one of Bolt was leaving.
Although I think that was maybe when I was doing work experience. And
Yeah.
I hadn't actually like got a
Yeah.
job or anything.
You were doing it because it was the website, wasn't it? You started on the website.
Yeah.
And one of the
On
last
the
things you
infamous
did
I was
website.
listening to Hamill's podcast.
Yeah,
I didn't realise that was the whole
on the
sort of thing
infamous
you'd been
website.
brought
That's
in
how I
for,
started. Yeah.
the infamous website.
He is infamous, yeah. That was like my last month, and they were like, "Yeah, we're going to start a website." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I'm just going to watch Daredevil now." So I'm just gonna, I'll be doing that.
Absolute shambles. So after obviously you're leaving Football Daily now. Where were you going post Football Daily?
So yeah, I'd sort of I've been doing Football Daily for a couple of years, and it kind of felt like, at the time, obviously, it's very different to what it is now, and it was kind of, as I was saying before, it was just me and one other guy, the wonderful Josh Fleming, and we sort of run that channel together. Kind of felt a bit burnt out because I was doing everything. It was producing, it was editing, it was social. You sort of had to do every single aspect of it, and it was kind
Josh
of
was useless.
yeah.
So he has to do
Josh was
social as
Josh
well.
was great, but it was like Josh could not edit YouTube videos.
No, you couldn't.
As good as he was on social media, he couldn't edit YouTube videos. So it was kind of like I was editing every video, and it kind of got a bit much for me, where I felt like I was kind of burned out.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, if there was another opportunity that came up, it would be interesting to explore. And at that time, a company over in the UK, a big production company called Fremantle Media, were looking to launch their own football content, their own sort of sports offering. And obviously, with a bigger company, there's more resources, there's more sort of opportunities to.
They'd bought a lot of the fan channels as well, hadn't they?
So
Or
they
owned the fan
started
channels.
all these fan channels.
Right.
They started a fan channel sort of network. They started Full Time Devils. They started Chelsea Fans, or at the time, what was it called? Chelsea Fans?
Yeah,
channel?
Chelsea Fan TV, I think.
Blue Moon Rising. They sort of started
Blue
this.
Moon was the Man City one.
Yeah.
They had a
Yeah.
Barca one as well, didn't they?
Yeah, Barcelona,
Spurred on?
Real Madrid. They had a Spurs channel. So they
Spurred
started
on,
all this, and they wanted a central sort of football channel.
To be the hub.
Yeah, exactly. And so, as a big company, there's a lot more resources at play. So that kind of was a really good sort of opportunity to go and work, go for a different experience, a different sort of environment as well, and go and work there and try and build a channel with them.
So did they like approach you, or did you just?
Yeah, so they sort of came to me and said, we want to do something to Football Daily. We want to
From
do,
the ground up?
Yeah, we want to do original content. We want to do top 10s. We want to do all this sort of content. And originally, I think what they were aiming for was they wanted to do kind of like a YouTube all-stars sort of channel where you'd get everyone you love on all these different football channels in one place.
Would come and discuss stuff.
Spencer FC, you'd get True Geordie, you'd get Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV, you'd get all these guys together, and it would be like the central place for.
And you did that. Like Geordie was on early episodes.
I think
you were on Football Public at some point.
He came on
I went head to head with Geordie. Yeah.
So
he definitely beat me.
Yeah. So we were trying to bring all these sort of different channels together. It was a really cool experience. It was like for the first time I had an editor that you could sort of work with, and they were editing with you, and you had a team of quite experienced people because as I say, it's kind of different now, but at the time the company Diagonal View, which obviously makes Football Daily, it was all graduates.
We were
all
still
like young guys.
We were still pretty much a startup.
Yeah, and we didn't really, we were doing our best, and we were sort of trying to do what we do, but to work.
And Fremantle were, in terms of TV world, they're X Factor, all sorts. They were the big dogs.
Apprentice, they were making all this sort of stuff, but sort of working in a big team to produce all this content, and the budget. We had a really good sort of budget to actually spend some
you had
money
a budget?
to make. Yeah,
nice,
we had a budget, which was nice, as opposed to just do what you can. But we were doing some really cool stuff. We were going on tour with all the clubs. So there was like a US tour, there was an Australian tour. We were going all the tours with the clubs. We had a lot more sort of access and a lot more sort of opportunities. So it was a really cool experience, and we were trying to bring all these sort of YouTube football personalities together. We sort of got True Geordie on board, who was kind of the main guy.
And so that's where you met.
Yeah,
Geordie.
That's where I first met True Geordie as well. So I think, together we sort of built that channel really, because originally it was going to be a bit of an all-star channel, lots of different personalities, but it was quite difficult to bring together.
Yeah, because True Geordie, I remember, ended up sort of being like, it almost was the face of it, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we were like, okay, obviously I'd worked with Lawrence McKenna before at Football Daily, and I wanted to work with him more.
So does that mean you are the initial link between Lawrence and Geordie?
Yeah, so they first met on.
You're
the
cherub.
They say
You're the cherub of Lawrence.
They first met on the TFR show we used to do. It was like a debate show. Game of Two Halves. That's where they first met. So Lawrence was the host.
The one you're on, Lawrence is the host, and it's you against Geordie.
That's where they first met.
What could have been for you?
But they, you could tell from that first show, like they just like clicked.
Yeah.
And they had a very similar sort of sense of humor, and even though they're very different people in terms of their backgrounds, they just sort of got on like house on fire from the first episode. They sort of got each other. So that was where they first sort of met, and they are where they are now.
It's madness.
That is so crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. This is why when we was looking at this, it's like you don't realise, but you've actually kind of been in the middle of. I always find it weird because Boultwood's never been main on camera. He's never been like the except for when you left Football Daily, we had to deal with about 6 months to a year's worth of
Patrick McKeamy.
Bring back Boultwood. No, but the comments of where's Adam Boultwood? Bring back Adam Boultwood constantly.
Lawrence did it for a little while afterwards.
He did. Carry was still hosting it.
He carried on for a while, yeah.
But then we realised we ran out of budget again.
So
there is that.
But because obviously, give us what was the lifespan of TFR? Because it seemed like you guys
that came out of nowhere.
It seems like you went high very fast, and then it kind of not burnt out's the wrong word, but it. No, I remember talking to you and other people probably a year into you being there. How long were you there for?
So I was probably there for about 18 months.
Yeah,
maybe.
And at that point you were sort of like, I might be looking.
So I think it's it is a thing. It is a common. It's a common thread in sort of digital media in that it does cost a lot to produce content, and at times, even though there is a lot of money in terms of advertising revenues, in terms of branded content, it doesn't always sort of make sense financially. Yeah, because it is still, even though it's come a long way in the last sort of 6 years or so, it is sort of an evolving industry in terms of how mature it is, in terms of those revenues, blah blah blah. But it's sort of got to about 12 months in, and I think Fremantle Media were a big company who was sort of looking at that. I don't think it quite had the returns they were expecting financially,
right? And
that's what they needed to get in order to justify the
expenditure,
budget. And they needed to justify the entire project.
Yeah,
and I think it is a common theme in sort of TV production companies and traditional media where there's not really that patience, or there's not really that understanding of, as I'm saying, this is something that's still evolving in this entire industry. And I think there was kind of a misunderstanding that it should have been returning those revenues straight away within a year. We spent all this money, where's the money coming back in? Whereas it's not really a year-long play, it's a 5-year-long play, really.
Yeah, I think that's the case of a lot of traditional media outlets. I think they think because of the immediacy of digital content, where they see you being able to turn a video
the
around in a day,
reactions.
they think, oh, well, that's all right. The revenue will start in a day.
And they also
Yeah,
think
they
views go bang. They think, oh, those views turned around, but we didn't have to wait a week for viewing figures like you do on other things.
Yeah.
And so they just think money appears.
Yeah, but it was. I think after about a year, they sort of. They didn't get cold feet, but they sort of seemed to reassess the situation, and I could sort of sense that was coming. So therefore, I sort of started to think, okay, if there were other opportunities out there,
and you had some great connections.
Yeah,
obviously you made at TFR, Football Daily.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a shame because I think there was a really fantastic team, like some of the best people I've ever worked with at TFR, and all those different fan channels. And I think people sort of got a misperception. It's not a word. They sort of misunderstood what those channels were, and they sort of thought, okay, it's a big traditional media company making these fan channels. These aren't real fans. Whereas everyone they employed to work on those channels went to every single game, home and away, of all those different clubs, and they were the biggest fans I've ever met. But it's a shame that it hasn't quite, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into it.
And it hasn't, that respect hasn't been given to the people that did it.
It's not the respect necessarily, but I think obviously that entire property has sort of changed hands now, and there's the social chain guys are sort of running that. And I think they're sort of trying their best to realise its potential, but I think it's harder. It's really hard to sort of run a sustainable project and sustainable business in this world.
It's also a different market than it was.
Oh yeah, massively.
Like in just the space of a couple of years, like the platforms have changed.
Oh yeah,
so drastically in terms of how you survive on them.
Yeah,
we're having conversations earlier today about what we're doing with VYB and next steps and everything, and it's it's almost throw everything you knew out the window.
Oh, definitely.
Start
it changes
back in the day,
3 months.
When I'm sure when you were first working there, you could like a video from All Time Tens and send thousands of subscribers.
Yeah, we was thinking
about 20. You could send about 20,000 views.
When
to a terrible video.
It must have been 2012 as well. But when we were on Football Daily, we'd one of the guys who was working in Diagonal View had sort of seen this kid who was making FIFA videos. And he was like, oh, it's really funny, you should like get this guy involved and try and do something for him. And we were like, okay, yeah, we'll watch a couple of videos. It was very funny. It was this guy called KSI, and we were like watching the videos, like, oh yeah, it's really good. Oh, actually, we're doing a bit of work with Rio Ferdinand. We'll try and like maybe make a video of these two together. And it seems so like bizarre, and I don't know.
And then KSI showed up in the
so we went up to
outfit.
God, we like
it was a hotel, wasn't it?
We did a road trip up to Manchester, and we filmed KSI playing FIFA with Rio Ferdinand in Rio Ferdinand's restaurant in Manchester.
Right. Yeah.
And Rio Ferdinand didn't know who this kid was. He was just like, okay, is this going to get me subscribers on my channel? And we were like, yeah, it'll get you like loads of subscribers.
You got to remember, this is people.
Like
how big was JJ then?
Oh, he must have had a couple of 100,000 subscribers, maybe half.
So he was starting to be good. But at that point where he's probably not even thinking about it as a business, he's just enjoying the perks of what's coming up.
And he wasn't really putting his face on camera that much either. It was all like the gameplay footage and animations.
Yeah, the little animations and Heskey and stuff.
But he's sort of like, it's like so strange to think about now, but it was me, Josh Fleming, Amelia, who works at Diagonal View, of course. We all sort of like took this road trip up to Manchester. It's so weird to think about now, but it's like we're in the car with KSI. He was just like a nice kid. And he was like, oh, can I bring my mate with me? And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, just bring him along if it makes you feel comfortable. Bearing in mind, we were like 24, 25 at the time. We didn't know what we were doing either. But we just sort of got in this car, bombed up, and I was trying to chat to KSI's mate. I was like, oh, what are you up to, sort of thing. He's like, oh, I've just dropped out of college. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do now, what I'm going to sort of move into in terms of career. I was like, it'd be fine. Like, you could be a YouTuber like your mate, maybe. That'd be cool. And he was like, yeah, maybe we'll see how it goes. And that was his name was Simon, which is obviously like Miniminter now.
Simon Minter.
And he was just he just came up with us as JJ's mate, and he was like there on the shoot in the background, sort of watching.
That's
so
bizarre.
So also just like dropped in there that you said you could be a YouTuber.
No.
Also claiming that one as well.
No, I'm not claiming.
Just claim
Miniminter.
Always claim Miniminter.
And I said to him,
that's an exclusive.
Why don't you? And I said to KSI, you should look at boxing.
Yeah. Do you know what? There's something in this. No, but it was more like, he didn't know what he was going to do, and he was clearly thinking that because obviously his best mate was a YouTuber, one of the biggest YouTubers.
You get those quotes where it's like someone said, and that person was Barack Obama.
Yeah,
it's like one of them. That's you doing that.
But he was just like a really like shy kid, and he wasn't quite sure of where he was going. And then obviously he's like one of the biggest YouTubers in the UK now. It's just like
that is crazy
in the UK and the world.
So did that content go on Football Daily?
Yeah, so
And Rio's
oh
channel.
god, it was a mad.
Football Daily
One
M5
of them
mag,
super
wasn't it?
collabs, wasn't it? Yeah.
Super collabs. How does that work?
Some of it went on KSI's channel, some of it went on Rio's channel, some of it went on Football Daily. But like basically Rio Ferdinand he must have got like 20,000-30,000 subscribers out of it.
Subs,
so it's
not
like,
views, like sub. Like,
Sorry,
that
subs,
did
yeah.
back in the
millions,
day,
millions.
like
which is
that's
like massive.
You'd
might
go
have even got
somewhere.
more. I'd love to go
It was
back
always
and
the
see.
way, wasn't it? You'd go somewhere with two
Yeah.
creators. You'd film two pieces of content. You take one, you take the
Yeah.
other. Both just have a
Do a half and half.
and it'd be like these days where you have to make sure you're plugging throughout. Back then, it was just like, yeah, chuck me on the end board.
Yeah.
And just at the end of the video, say, yeah, go over and check out this person's channel. And you just send subs, thousands, gone.
Yeah.
It was
Crazy.
It was crazy to think that people actively moved about the platform as fans like they did then.
Yeah,
Do you know
I
what I mean?
think
To
there
follow
were-
like they did.
Yeah, there was just sort of a lot. There was a lot less choice. There was a lot less channels.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's so much out there now on YouTube and everywhere really. But at that time, yeah, KSI. I mean, that's how
crazy.
he sort of made Joe Weller. If you like a piece of content or you featured someone, even now he's still doing it to this day, sort of making UK.
And you make
YouTubers.
KSI, so it all comes.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Didn't sound.
So you're at TFR
Yeah.
because I know that after leaving TFR, you end up working with Spencer,
Yeah.
but you were freelancing in between for a while, weren't you? How did you go from there
So
to there?
I was freelancing with Spencer.
And where did you meet Spencer? From TFR or from
oh yeah,
beforehand?
so when we were at TFR, we'd made we had this series called The Bucket List.
Right.
So we went to Milan together. We went to Milan Derby. We sort of created this piece of content around that.
That was incredibly well shot. That content. I
Yeah,
remember.
that was a bit of a mad one. But yeah, I'd sort of met him through that.
Well, he
And-
came on as a talent to do it.
Yeah. So that was
Okay.
like his like little series we did on TFR.
Because had he just broken out from FIFA player, or had he been out for a while?
No, he'd been out for a while.
Because he did the switch where he did the
done
hostage
that a few
video,
years
didn't
ago.
he?
But yeah, God, it's like ancient YouTube history, isn't it?
It's
Like,
crazy,
a lot of
isn't it?
people
Yeah.
wouldn't even know. that
People wouldn't
Spencer
even know.
was a
Yeah.
FIFA
So
player back then.
Spencer, obviously of hashtag fame,
Yeah.
originally was an account that was just called FIFA player, wasn't he?
Mm.
And you never
He was
saw
on
his
Copper
face.
90.
He was on
Balaclava.
Copper 90, yeah, and
So
he
he-
played dressed as a ninja, pretty much, didn't he?
Yeah.
His face was
He
covered.
was a whole character. Sort of
That
thing.
was how it was. So you never knew his face at all. And then at some point, I think when he probably thought to himself, "There's a business here,
Yeah.
but there's a business if I'm seen." Like
Because that was
Yeah.
another
he turned to
KSI.
himself.
He used to was it KSI? He was always like, "I'm gonna beat KSI." That was the whole thing. It was a big
Or was that
KSI.
gonna be FIFA?
I think
FIFA
so.
player
He was
rival.
playing
Yeah.
a lot of those sort of guys. A lot of like he was playing like Joe Weller.
Yeah.
He was playing KSI
Yeah.
on those sort of videos.
But
But
then-
he's
So FIFA player at the time makes the
Mm.
video, basically staged the whole thing where he got kidnapped.
It was
But
mad.
he got kidnapped by Spencer. Obviously
Yeah.
him, but just you couldn't see it. And at that point, it was the whole reveal of Spencer now saying, "Right, well, I'm
Yeah.
taking over this channel. It's mine." And the name got changed to Spencer FC.
that's the one.
And then Spencer's now Spencer.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, people thinking, "Oh, I get why he's done it," and a lot of people going, "Oh, he just wants to put his face on camera." It's like when you look back on it, you're like,
Genius.
if he knew what he was doing,
Yeah.
if he planned even
Yeah.
halfway ahead as to where he is now,
I
like
think
fair
he,
play, good move.
I think he knew what he was doing. Like he's one of the smartest people I've ever sort of worked with in this
Yeah.
whole sort of industry. He's very savvy. Sort of, he just like gets it and he knows where he's going and he knows how to get there. So I think he made it
Anything
very
that springs to mind as a moment where, like a conversation you've had about
Just
content
like,
or
you know,
something, of just the way he
no,
approaches
just like
things.
you know, even so when I was sort of freelancing with him, and you know, there was a lot of different projects we had on the go, and a lot of different sort of directions it could go in. And you know, he'd always said, he was like, you know, I'd love to own a proper football team. I'd love to have a team that I could be the chairman of and that I could lead. And you know, who knows, maybe one day I'll be in the Premier League. And I was just like, okay, that's like ambitious. That's like really ambitious.
And he's saying this as in, this has potentially this could happen.
yeah, as in that's what hashtag United could become.
Wow.
Because at the time, obviously,
And this is early days of it.
Yeah. Well, this was like, you know, they were going through the whole sort of division structure where they played different sort of opponents and they get 3 points and yada yada. But that was just when I was working with him, that was an idea in their head of how to turn that into an actual football team.
And
And obviously now they're top of the league they're in. They're absolutely smashing it. It's incredible what he's sort of created. But like when I was working with him, it was just like, oh yeah, maybe I can make this into a sort of a semi-pro team. And I was like, okay, that's pie in the sky
it's
sort of
ballsy.
thinking.
am I
Like,
right?
he knew what he was doing.
Am I right in thinking that were you one of the producers on the Academy series?
Yeah, so I came on board to just sort of help flesh out some of the content they were making, specifically for hashtag as well as Spencer's stuff. But yeah, they were trying to really get the hashtag United content going. So the main stuff was, the games. They were doing big tours, and they went to tour the United States.
I remember that.
Yeah, they're doing all these all these sort of massive projects. And then hashtag Academy was sort of an idea he'd had, and I sort of came on board to help produce that and make it into the series it was, which was really cool. That was really sort of.
And when did you first see Scotty Pollock?
Oh, the first day.
Was it just a madness?
Yeah, so it was a whole mad process. I mean, just when I came on, he was like, "Okay, I've opened up applications," and he got like thousands upon thousands.
Yeah, I was speaking to Seb the other day, and he said I think it was 20,000 applicants.
Yeah, it was crazy how many they had. So we were sort of sifting through them all, and Spencer had sort of sorted some of them. He was like, "Okay, I think these guys would be good." So we invited them all down.
How were they applying? Like, are they sending through tape or something? Or what's the deal?
I think they were asked to sort of fill out a Google form. So it's like, what's your name? Obviously, which player you most like? Tell us a bit about yourself. And then there was an option to send a video of your kind of skills and these sort of things. So
because for him to then break that down into a short list to some
extent.
And he's not a scout.
No,
we're talking about a guy who's just a bit savvy, but is a YouTuber.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was the first day we did. It was literally the first day Scott Pollock was there, and Seb had said, like, I was like, Seb, we'll get an interview on camera. Like, okay, who's the one player you've spotted today that you think is going to be like a bit special? Oh, Scotty P, remember the name? But he'd called him. Spencer had that story. He called him the wrong name. I can't remember what he called him now, but he was something like Scotty Parsons. Remember the name? We're like, oh no, you better do that again, Seb. Like one more time, it's Scott Pollock.
Oh really? So originally he said the wrong.
Yeah, but he was talking about obviously the Scott Pollock. But that was like, it was clear from day one he was going to be like one.
Whereas Scott Parsons, who was also there,
but
it's still gone to nothing.
But it's crazy now. He's playing. He just made his debut for Northampton Town, didn't he? But he was like, it was really nice because he's such like a lovely kid. He's sort of had a bit of a sad story, but he'd sort of come through it all and was still sort of, I think he showed a lot of determination and a lot of sort of heart to get where he was. And, I think no one's going to begrudge him his success because he's such a lovely guy. Everyone's just delighted to see him where he is.
It's the craziest story, isn't it?
Incredible story.
Shouted by Spencer on YouTube.
All the guys who were in the final 10 were like really good, like very good footballers. But he was clearly like, okay, this guy's like too good almost to be playing in this competition. So we were really happy. He won the final vote against another guy called Jack Durkin, who was a very good player, but Scott Pollock was like professional. And he featured in the Wembley Cup that year for hashtag United. I think it was Mark Bright who said, okay, that kid's amazing, and sort of sorted him out some sort of trial for Crystal Palace.
Oh, what, was Mark Bright commentating, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was either commentating or he might have been watching the game, but he definitely hooked up some sort of trial with Crystal Palace.
That's how he got in.
And he didn't even make it at Crystal Palace, as far as I know. But he managed to sort of get himself into Northampton Town, where he's from. So,
and how old is he now?
Oh, still quite young, isn't
I think he must be only 18.
Yeah, because
he was 16 at the time.
He was playing for the under-18s this season, and I think he scored something like 12 in 14 from central midfield for the under-18s at Northampton.
He was doing his GCSEs at the time. So
amazing,
it's the craziest story. So at this time, you're working like with Spencer, producing a number of projects for hashtag.
Is that the first project you worked with them on? The Academy?
The Academy. It might have been the tour first. So they did like a US tour with Coca-Cola. So it was like Atlanta.
How does that come about? So in terms of the US tour, did you go on? You went on the tour, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
So if that's the first thing you're working on, you meet Spencer for a beer one day and just talking about things. He messaged me.
I'd gone like traveling or something. And I had a random DM in my Twitter. He slid into the old DMs, and he was just. I knew his brother Saunders, who obviously is sort of successful YouTuber and presenter in his own right. I sort of knew him, so I assumed that was where the connection may have sort of come from, as well as working with him before. But I think he was just looking for a producer. He just wanted someone to come on board, a bit more resource and extra hands to come and help him realise all the projects he was working on. I didn't realise at the time it was things like hashtag Academy, this big series, and a US tour and all this sort of really sort of exciting stuff. But yeah, I think he just needed someone to come and help him realise all these ideas he had. He couldn't do it by himself. But it was really cool. It was a really amazing sort of project to work on, and it's the sort of stuff that you don't get to do every day, going to the United States and it was it was a crazy experience.
What's it like to work? Like, a lot of our listeners and stuff or viewers will be big fans of Spencer. What is it like working with Spencer in like a day-to-day professional environment?
Yeah, it's great. We were kind of like quite a small team. There wasn't many of us. There were obviously Spencer, who's kind of the brains of the operation. Seb, who's kind of, you know, the other brains. He's kind of more the commercial sort of business side of it. Also one of the smartest, savviest guys I've ever worked with.
So Spencer's more on the creative production side. He's seeing where the video is.
Yeah, and his brother brother Seb takes care of all of those. Like, he's a crazy talented family they got there. Saunders, Seb and Spencer.
Saunders is a brilliant producer.
Yeah, incredible. So I used to work with him at the Football Republic. He was sort of working there as a sort of producer editor. But they're just very smart and very savvy, and they just sort of get it, because obviously Spencer understands his audience, he understands his platform. But I think he always had ambitions and ideas that were almost bigger than that. So I think he always knew, you know, I think a lot of people might have carried on with #United in that iteration where they were playing a friendly every week and it was kind of a virtual league, and he always knew, okay, I wanted to reach a new
or even
height.
Just to be a YouTuber.
Yeah. But I think most people would be happy with that sort of, you know, we'll just carry on like this. This is great. But he's always trying to evolve, and he's always trying to do something different. And they all are, as a kind of a business and a.
Were you surprised when they launched the professional side or the semi-pro?
That was always something. So they launched that after I'd sort of moved on from there. But it was always something, as I say, they talked about. You know, maybe we can launch a professional side.
So it wasn't a shock when they did it.
No, I think at the time there was sort of a lot of hurdles to it, and they were sort of thinking it all through about the different options and avenues they could go down. But I think it was, as I say, he's always thinking a couple of moves ahead, and I think he thought, okay, this is a business, and this is a project he can work on for life, as opposed to, you know, YouTube and this sort of influencer sort of life cycle. It's limited, and you've only got a certain amount of time. I think he thought, okay, you know, I can create something bigger than myself. And he's done amazing things. I think.
Yeah, and now he's on traditional media as well. And
he was on 11 Sports, wasn't he? So I think he's.
And a lot of esports. He's really good with esports, isn't he?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. He's kind of ahead of the game in that, you know, he launched a #United esports team before some of the major Premier League clubs have. And now all the clubs are trying to get their own esports team, esports players, and he was the guy who had, you know.
I think, is it Copenhagen have actually got one of the biggest going?
But he one of his guys, Tass, had won like one of the major FIFA tournaments. He's got some of the best FIFA players in the world still in his sort of roster now. He's very sort of forward thinking and is ahead of a lot of people, I think. Yeah. Which people don't maybe appreciate.
And then at what stage did you get involved in what is now XO, or was it?
I think was going to say, and what stage did that relationship sour and you decided to move on?
Yeah. No, I think.
Or did you just go and work with Brian, or?
So it was just sort of, I'd obviously worked with Brian at TFR and Lawrence as well, and we'd all sort of just like had a couple of meetings and coffees and beers and this sort of stuff, and we're just like, could we like start our own thing, or could we like launch our own channel, and like what would that be maybe, and what would we sort of do if we could?
So this is so are you Will and Stephen there at this point as well?
No, Will and Stephen weren't there at that point.
So this is the initial conversations around what would become XO is you, Lawrence and Geordie.
Yeah, so I think there was kind of like, okay, well, Brian's obviously like, you know, one of the biggest, most influential YouTubers in the UK. He's bringing that audience, and he's bringing an incredible sense of he just knows what works on YouTube. Lawrence is one of the most talented guys I know, an incredible creative. He's a producer, a director in his own right. So okay, that'll be good. And obviously I'd sort of worked and built a couple of football channels myself, and working with Spencer and all this sort of stuff. So I sort of knew that this whole space, and we just sort of started to think like, what would we do if we weren't working for a company, if we were sort of starting to build our own thing, and if we wanted to start our own channel, what would we do? So it's just from those initial sort of conversations that Brian was sort of saying, okay, yeah, well, I know this guy, Will N.E., and obviously we all knew who that was. And like, okay, yeah, maybe we could get him involved. He's good friends with Stephen Tries. Oh, yeah, he's like one of the funniest guys on YouTube. Maybe we could get him involved. So it's all, you know.
So then it's just a case of pitching that idea to them.
Yeah, it was a sort of a case of pitching there. We had a lot of meetings and a lot of chats and all that sort of stuff. But it feels like a bit of a miracle now, considering where they all are, that it all sort of came off.
How big were Will and Stephen when EXO launched? They're still pretty massive.
Oh
right?
yeah, I think
Will was
over 1 million.
Yeah.
Will was over 1 million easily. Stephen maybe 400,000 or something like that. But obviously produced these massive sketches, like Stormzy sketch. Like everyone knew who Stephen was. And True Geordie had obviously like come a long way. I think he was someone who, again, he started with that Nile Ranger rant video, but evolved into doing the podcast and having all this incredible content on his own channel. But
the first ever podcast.
Yeah, the first ever YouTube podcast. Is, they're obviously all like really massive in their own right, and they're all like huge. But I think it was like good timing that everyone sort of came together in that moment and said, "Oh, should we just start this thing?" I don't think you'd be able to do it now. I don't know if there's anyone else you could do it with, really. We sort of got a bit lucky with the time, and everyone was really
everybody was good friends as well. That helped.
I think that's the key thing. When you talk about doing it with someone else, it's like the thing you would have to get right would be to put those people in the room and it bounce.
Timing,
because
and the willingness for them to give up their own time to develop something else.
Definitely, because Lawrence and Brian are like genuine best mates in real life. Will and Stephen are genuine best mates, so it felt like a kind of a really good sort of fit. And It's going well. So
I like that dynamic in the group though, because it does feel like when you watch stuff that there's almost two generations to it. Yeah, Will and Stephen are very much almost the two naughty little kids in the group, definitely. And then
they're all
Geordie and Lawrence are a little bit more as bad as Geordie can be at times. It's sometimes like, all right, you've got to keep them two in line.
Lawrence reins them in really well, I think. Is that sort of like
he tries, he does try. But it's a really nice mix. They're all like really different people, and they're all from very different backgrounds, and they all like different content. They've all got a different idea of what good YouTube content is, but they all sort of managed to come together and create something that I think is potentially bigger than any of them, and create something really special.
And when you're putting together an EXO video, talk us through the sort of process. Who is editing it, or do you have editors? Or
so we've got like a small team that we work with, but it's mainly sort of myself and Lawrence, maybe sort of pulling it all together behind the scenes. We've got an editor that we work with, and James Alcott, who's a guy we work with. He features on camera.
You've probably seen James on quite a few videos actually.
It's been good to get on this podcast.
It's almost similar to Lawrence in that he's been in and across things for a few years.
Yeah, a lot of different things.
Yeah,
but he's we sort of work with quite a small team, but it's all just sort of different ideas that the guys have had, that I've had, or James has had, and we all try and come together and create something. Again, like I say, that's bigger than themselves, and maybe they couldn't do on their own sort of channels. So we did a video towards the end of last year. We went to New York and we filmed this sort of big video with EA Sports and Madden, and it's not necessarily something they could all do by themselves. Lawrence couldn't do that all by himself. Will can do that all by himself, but when everyone sort of comes together, you can create something that they couldn't do on their own. So that's kind of the idea behind it.
And it's almost set up as the channel works off specials in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
The reason you wouldn't be able to put something like that on Will's channel is because it doesn't fit with what he's putting out. But then on this channel, you can mix and match. You can go with whatever you want.
Exactly, because there's a nice mix of we've done the interviews with did an interview with Troy Deeney, which is maybe a bit of True Geordie podcast with Lawrence, that sort of flavour. We've done lie detector challenges and stuff, which might be a bit more Will's flavour.
Yeah.
We've got these sort of sketches, Tri Sports News, which is Steven's sort of thing, and things like a New York video, that's like Lawrence all over. He sort of edited and produced that.
You can tell that when you watch it.
As soon as you watch a Lawrence video, you can.
But it kind of, despite all those sort of different tones, different styles, it all sort of works together, which is really nice.
You've also got in there, which is an anecdote we'll drop in here, me calling you out for stealing Agony Uncles.
Yeah.
So when
I can tell that story if you want.
Yeah, go for it. I'll tell you what. I'll say you point out where I'm.
Let's hear the two different sides of the story, and start at the beginning for people.
Because I'll be honest as well. Do you know, the thing was for me is this is me kicking off at you about it was because of trying to do it in a nicer way than him.
Yeah.
Because so basically, I'm on my train home from work one day.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who. I really can't remember who at all.
So I think we'd tweeted out EXO Life Advice, send in your questions.
Yeah, but I don't know who. I'm saying who texted me.
Right.
I can't remember who it was that texted me, but yeah, someone texted me and says EXO's just stolen Agony Uncles. Right. And do you know what the thing was at this point? As we was looking at it, we was like, when we first did Agony, because in terms of the way it looks, whether we've said this from day one, it's not a unique idea. First of all, it's made off Agony Aunts, like that's been in newspapers for years.
And it's basically the Hodge twins, but with 4 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So we know it's not, but in terms of the way we did it, with stupid problems being sent in the back and forth, like I remember we looked at it, the first couple had gone out, and we was like, this feels like one of the first things we've made in this company that's not a remake on another channel's thing that, like, within the company that someone's doing. Right. And it felt good, and it was doing well, and it was funny. So someone must be saying Exo Star Agony. So what? So I go on Twitter and have a look, and I see the tweet.
Oh, right, okay.
And I was like, I think you'd retweeted it or something. Yeah. So I was like, wow. Like, my first thought was, if they were going to take the concept we had, it would have been nice if he'd have dropped a text first. If Bolt would have dropped a text first.
You two have an outstanding friendship.
By the way, this is we're doing something similar to the thing. Yeah. So. Also, while this happens, I see that you've just put out a tweet or something like that.
I liked it. I liked their tweet. From the Balls Up account.
From the Balls Up or something like that. Yeah. And then and I just messaged him and went, I'm going to text Boultwood. Don't post anything like arsey, kicking off saying, they've nicked whoever. And he went, all right, I won't. And I could tell from the way he said it, because I phoned him, he was about to as well. He was going to tweet something.
I was going to tweet like,
that's original.
Chance of a collab or something like that afterwards.
So... but I will say that even from the start, even though I admit this straight away, that I went in all guns blazing when I texted him, and I shouldn't have done. But even from the start, I was thinking, if we can get something out of this, if we can get a little collab, this could help us. Because at the time we're like, we've always, when people always said about channels that you liken yourself to, EXO is one of them. We like the content; it's the same kind of feel, but it's been like. When they were doing that, it's like, so it's similar stuff. We could do something. So I texted Boultwood and was like,
all guns blazing.
I think it was the sassy remark. I said,
see if I got it on my phone. No, I haven't.
The one thing I do know I said to you was, I said, sent him a picture of it or something and said, that looks familiar. Yeah. Let me know if you need some colour backdrops.
Dripping in sass.
That's what I said. Let me know if you need some colour backdrops.
That is a sassy text.
And he texted me back saying, mate, are you serious? As in, like, are you actually doing it? So then I texted him and was like, heads up would have been nice if you were doing it. And then we had a little back and forth with him saying, Geordie's been answering people's problems on his podcast for years. They just decided to make a thing out of it. Yeah. And then the bit I remember is, I then said to him, I was like, all right, look, fine. On our side, let's try and make a good situation out of a bad one. Yeah. I said, any chance we can do something here? And he texted me back. I remember that he texted me back. He went, are you accusing me of ripping you off, or are you asking me for a collab? And I text back, both.
I was like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. It's like I thought you'd assumed the worst. I was like, so it's like. My thoughts initially was like, well, okay, this is not all my decision. This is like a group decision. So if you're coming to me and going, oh, no, you could have given us some heads up. If you were assuming the worst, I was like, okay, thanks for.
It's not just on you.
Yeah. But it was like the actual situation was we were sitting there talking about ideas. Like, okay, can we make some ideas here? And again, as I say, it's like a bit of a flavour from each channel. So True Geordie said, okay, I'll get all these problems at the end of my podcast. He's like, what if we turn that into like a strand on it so we could answer all these problems, because some of them are like mental. Yeah, that'd be good. And then Lawrence started saying, how could we film it? Like, what sort of style? Because if we were doing it in a podcast style, it's the same as the podcast.
Does it work?
Yeah. So he said, what if we did it one by one? We'll film each other, and you can sort of intercut them.
It's nice to know they have the same conversations that we have about content, though, isn't it?
So
how do we make it look different? What if we do it one more?
Initially, the first thing I thought was, I was like, okay, it's like a bit similar to Filthy Fellas sort of thing. I was a bit like,
which is another thing we'd looked at.
Yeah, and I was like, am I going to get something? I was like, are we going to get like a text from someone going, oh, this is a bit too similar? It's different topics, so I think it'd be okay. And then I actually said, well, actually, the guys I used to work with, they're doing something called Agony Uncles. Like, if you filmed it in that style, it's quite similar. So, I'll probably get a few angry texts. And Brian went, what channel is it on? And he said, who's the channel? I said, Balls Up. And he went, who? So I was like,
which is fine.
And I was
true.
Like, true. I know it sounds harsh, but I was like, okay, like, well, they've never seen it. So yeah, as you say, nothing's
but
original.
also,
But it's
sorry,
more like,
And it's not that similar. It's not that
was
similar.
that's the conversation. You said balls up, and he said who?
yeah.
What again? So do you want to know
So
how
he
I
was-
was told that? I was told that he said show me him, and you got us up on a phone or whatever, and I was told that he said they've got 5k subs. That's what I was told he said. And because do you know why? Because you know why?
Yeah.
Because when someone told me that, I was annoyed because whoever it was at the time, when he said that, oh, you should kick off, and I went, well, sorry, in this company, if we had an idea for a video, searched it, and a channel with 5k subs had it, we would say F them, and we'd do it anyway. So we can't be hypocrites in this.
Yeah, I mean, God. There is a lot of crossover anyway, though. It's like, like it's natural in that there's so many channels now, and there's only so many.
Football Daily have stolen so many ideas off.
I will just say that conversation ended with us saying, all right, we'll go for a beer then, and we'll talk about some ideas. And he cancelled on me twice.
Sorry, okay.
Yeah, and then we ended up doing this.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, like there's no original ideas anyway.
No.
Yeah, I think that they're all sort of to an extent they're all sort of remixes and different versions of other ideas. That's probably like a trap everyone falls into. Everyone's doing sort
the
of
thing
stuff.
is, it's also like if it's good.
Yeah,
and also when you're making content, you want to make content like the people you like watching.
Yeah, and
so
for
you're
us,
gonna.
It was just like that. As I say, they're for such different personalities. We did think, okay, they're all going to answer these questions in different ways. And Lawrence is so earnest and wants to give people genuine advice. Brian wants to sort of take the mick out of him, as does Stephen. Will sort of somewhere maybe in between a little bit, but it's a fun strand.
It is. It's good. It's and I'll tell you, we as a channel that is we have 16,000 subs. We still take a nice bit of pride in that any time on an XO Live Problems, if you go down the comments, there's always about three. There's always about 3 or 4 that say actually, B-Tech Agony Uncles was one of them. So, but they're doing. Leave them. Let them
they're doing all right. It's fine.
Not doing too bad. Just 500,000 views on that one.
Just 500,000 views on that one, and we're got
1%.
1%.
So where do you think XO is going to go in the future then, Boultwood? From here?
We'll sort of see. It's been a really interesting. We've sort of been going almost a year now, so I think in February it'll be like a year. And
it's done a hell of a lot of wicked stuff in a year when you think about it.
Yeah, I think the mad thing is we're very proud of where we got to. Like, okay, this is really good, but we also, everyone who's involved feels like we haven't really got our first gear, and we've not really like scratched the surface of what it could be. It just feels like there's a lot of potential. And there's a lot of, it's got a massive ceiling, that entire project. Obviously, you've got 4 of the best guys on YouTube, in my opinion, working together.
Yeah.
And, we've done a lot of cool stuff, and we're really proud of some of the videos we've made. But, yeah, we think we can do so much more.
Interested to ask, though, off the back of that, when we've done our, like, getting to know each of us podcasts, we've always said, where do we want to see VYB going in the future?
Yeah.
If you're saying that you don't feel you've got our first gear with what you're making at the moment, give us an idea as to what's like a concept or like an area that you'd want to move into, because it seems like you guys are doing big budget cool stuff anyway.
I think it's more we're all very, it's not self-critical, but especially people like Will and people like Brian, they're very successful because they're never satisfied, they're never happy with what they've done. Will is someone who is relentlessly driven to succeed. And if a video doesn't do 500,000 views in 24 hours, he is angry. And he's like, this isn't good enough. So he's so, but that's what I mean. To him, that's like, he's like, okay, I've really got to, I've really got to get back on it. I've got to get, So they're so focused on success and so driven that they're never satisfied. And that's what makes them that successful, especially True Geordie. True Geordie has, he's just interviewed Ian Wright. He's just interviewed Ricky Gervais for his podcast. 2 of the biggest guests he's ever going to have. 2 of the best podcasts he's ever done.
What's the deal with the Rogan? Because he's been saying for a while.
He followed him on Twitter, didn't he?
Yeah, one day that'll happen. Like they'll be on.
I think that's the one. I think he would love that.
That is like the pinnacle for Geordie, isn't it?
Yeah, but like even when he's on the Joe Rogan podcast or vice versa, he won't be satisfied. He'll be like, hey, who's next? Who am I getting on next? What am I doing? And that's. There's rarely been an XO video that we've put out and Brian or Will has gone, okay, that was perfect, or I'm 100% happy with that. They're never 100% happy, and they're always thinking, how could we do better? And that's why, to them, they're like, we're doing really well, but we've never done as good as we potentially could do. They still see the ceiling and the potential in it.
It's similar, like at different levels to, I think me and Joe can both vouch for this, that the VYB guys that are, me and Joe come in when we can, but Sav, Sam and Georgia are very similar in that even with the stuff we're making, we sometimes have to sort of sit them down and say, no, this is good, like it's fine.
Yeah.
Because they always want to, it's always, what can we add into something? How can we go bigger and better always with whatever we're doing? I think it's a good mindset to have.
I think it is. I think it's...
Was that part of the reason you bought Cam in to XO? To increase the size and make it a bit bigger?
I think we just really like Cam.
Really?
Yeah, everyone really likes him. He's such a nice kid. And he's very talented as well. He's got a lot of potential. I think he was someone we just wanted to add to the mix and potentially like bring along with us. And especially Geordie is a bit of a mentor to a lot of these guys and wanted to sort of get him involved and
do you see
help
him being added? Is it now that's a 5, or is it the kind of thing where you feel like more would happen down the line?
I definitely think there's scope to expand it and there's scope to include more people. I think
there's always going to be the core, but
but there's I feel like XO is the sort of thing that could be its own media brand and it could be its own platform in 2-3 years.
Yeah.
It's a long way off, but I think it might not necessarily be reliant on these personalities, these people.
Yeah.
Who knows? But
I think it could become a type of content. Or
it could become a media brand in its own right, and it could be about the formats that these guys have established. An XO Life Advice in 2 years' time might not have any of those guys on it. It might have a completely new cast of characters. Who knows? But it's just, these guys are very central to it now and are very invested in it and want to do the best sort of content they can that, as I say, perhaps they can't make on their own platforms and their own channels. And it just feels like there's so much potential to it that we've not quite really got ourselves out of first gear yet, and we're sort of looking to shift into second at least and go from there.
With that though, what's been the best piece you've worked on the channel?
The best piece. We were all very proud of the trailer. We sort of did this really cool trailer that we released, and we felt like it really sort of got across what we were trying to do. We'd sort of those first couple of weeks were crazy. We did like a whole documentary about KSI and True Geordie's journey to become the commentator. We did a piece early on with Troy Deeney, which I think was a kind of interview that's never been done with someone like him before. And definitely the New York video was a great experience to go to New York and spend a week with Will and Stephen and Lawrence, have a good time, but also come out of it was a really cool,
a piece of content.
Yeah, really cool sort of video. And again, working with someone like EA Sports, and definitely the Wembley Cup as well was a really cool experience where I don't think I think Will and Stephen and Brian really enjoyed it because they hadn't necessarily like been in a football team before, and that sort of that vibe. And that's sort of I'm on brand, but that's sort of like feeling of being in a squad with a group of lads. Yeah, exactly. So
tell us a bit about that Wembley though.
Oh, it was amazing.
Because you obviously with our very own Millad.
Yeah, Millad was there.
XOFC.
Millad was
What's
there.
What's that like? Because I can't. What were your 3 minutes like?
Oh, amazing! Best 3 minutes of my life. But it was a mad experience because. It was a weird experience because I think everyone was taking it quite seriously, and we were perhaps the only team that weren't taking it quite as seriously as the other guys. And I think Spencer himself has come out and said he might rethink that format, and maybe there'd be things they do differently if they do it this year. I think it became potentially too competitive, and it became too about winning, whereas really it should be about
It should be about having it's a laugh.
But there's no way, as much as I loved it and I got subbed off for Catherine, it's like an amazing experience. It was fantastic. There's no way I should have been on the pitch. That's not what it's about, really. It's about the crowd being there to watch their favourite YouTubers, and you want to see Deji miss an open goal. That's the sort of fun you want to have on the day, as opposed to, I think it sort of became a bit of a proper football competition, which is not necessarily what it should be.
Yeah, I get that.
But
I can understand that.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Sort of going in the Wembley dressing rooms and having that experience, say, Geordie and Will and Stephen having that with like a proper squad. And even though we'd sort of, we ended up getting knocked out in the semi-final, it was just like an amazing experience, an amazing day that everyone...
I think Will vouched for me, you and Sav were sitting in the crowd for that. And I think there was a feel, at least around us, there was a lot of support for XOFC, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a lot of support, more support for XOFC than a lot of other teams. I think because you were taking it more lighthearted.
Exactly. I think a lot of people had followed your journey there as a laugh, as an enjoying what it was there for, rather than we're here to win this.
And I think when a lot of people saw you beat F2 in the knockout stages or the playoffs, then a lot of people saw the reaction of other YouTubers and stuff and thought, oh, we're getting behind EXO.
Yeah. We were definitely the
underdog.
It was the underdog,
God, that group stage when we turned up, like none of the team had ever met each other. So it was like, it was mates of mine like Milad. It was people I played with before at another team called London City. We had a really random assortment of people we'd never met each other. We're like, all right, lads, let's just try and... we'll play 4-4-2 and we'll just try and stay tight and all that sort of thing.
Same old things.
It's just like
keep it simple.
We didn't know what we were doing.
Simple passes.
But it was an amazing experience, and I think it was hard to sort of like judge how we were going to do it. We had like 2 days before. We were like, how are we going to do this? Like, do we start with True Geordie on the pitch? Do we bring them all on? And like True Geordie had sort of said, he was like, look, the best thing that we can do is bring everyone on together. It's going to be an amazing moment. And it happened a lot later than I think we wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
So I think we wanted it to happen about 5 minutes or so before, but we couldn't really they didn't really get the chance to come onto the pitch. So I think it happened a little bit too late for our liking, but they all just wanted this moment where they came on together, and it was kind of like, it's not really about the football or the winning. It was just like, okay.
I think that moment was probably just a sign of what it should have been about.
Yeah, I think
rather
it was,
than people that were, And I think one great moment I will say is you coming off, you subbed off for Cafu.
Yeah.
The legend is Cafu.
But the best bit happened straight after,
the moment after, but I love the bit that you're coming off and you think anyone in that situation, you'd just be like, oh, he's a legend, so just walk off, make sure it all goes to plan. There's a moment where Boultwood just gets to him and just, I feel like in your head you must have just gone, oh, screw it. And you just put your hands out and say, come on, I'm hugging him. And you give Cafu a hug as he comes on.
The whole thing was so surreal though, because we were trying to explain to Cafu beforehand. We never met him, so he just came in and we were like, okay, we were hoping to play him at centre-back. So me and James Alcott were going up to him and sort of like, we had like a little tactics thing and we were sort of showing him.
Does he speak English?
Not really, no. So we were like, we're thinking about playing you like sort of here, maybe like here. And he was like, play anywhere. He was like, I don't mind. We were like, like Leicester City, we're going to be counter-attacking football. He was like, yeah, cool, whatever. He was just like, really sort of like.
But the one thing he was sure on was he was taking set pieces.
Oh yeah. 100%.
So when he walks on the pitch, as soon as he comes on for you and he pushes Millard out the way.
Oh yeah, he was.
There's a moment where Mills said afterwards where Mills moves and he looks over his shoulders to say, who's pushing me off the ball?
Yeah,
and then you see the moment when he realises, it's Cafu. And he just leaves it. Just leaves it at that.
He was incredible. But it was like an amazing sort of experience, and I think everyone had an amazing time. And as I say, those guys had that moment with the crowd, and I think that sort of got, to an extent, it kind of got lost a little bit because it was a bit more competitive. And I think there was a really good idea behind let's keep the games quite tight, 30 minutes. It's, the man down and everything. I think there was an eye to make it entertaining and sort of make it a bit more fast-paced and a bit more fun. But I think in reality, it was all really cagey and it was quite difficult conditions.
Yeah, I think that's the tough thing about the short length of time in the games in particular. I thought man down was really good though.
Yeah, it's a good sort of idea. It's a good concept.
I think it's nicked off like the hockey, isn't it? NHL, I think, have the man down as well.
Do they?
Yeah, I think.
Oh, they do. Yeah, they do actually.
They lose a man as well. Yeah. So do you think EXO are going to be in this year?
I don't know if there's going to be a Wembley Cup this year. I'm not sure what the sort of situation is, but we'll see if they go ahead. I think it will definitely be a different sort of format. I think they'll rethink it potentially what they're going to do. But yeah, it's I'm sure it'll be great for whoever's in.
Cool.
I think one thing that we've sort of gone through your whole career progression.
Yeah.
I think one thing that would be interesting, I think, to ask you off the back of this is sort of tips and lessons that you've learnt over the course of it. That let's say, as we started with, we get so many messages from young people that are looking to come into this sort of industry for a career. So let's say you're sitting down with someone, they've just asked, one, how do I get into it? But two, sort of almost ways to conduct yourself. And I think the one thing I would say key, because as I mentioned before, I was talking to John Babb about this before you coming in, but you're almost, in terms of networking, Babb said it was like if he was out of a job tomorrow, the first person you'd hit up to say, can you help me out with get me in touch with some people is you. So just how would you go about stuff like that? What's the best way to approach life in this industry?
I think you just really got to it is all about the impressions you make, isn't it? You've got to show a lot of initiative and you've got to show a lot of ambition. And I think you've really got to put yourself in the right situation, and you've got to sort of force things to happen because they won't happen for you. So as I was saying, God, how long? An hour ago? When that Football Daily opportunity first came up, there was a football channel starting. They were going to hire a producer, and I said, let me do that. I'll do that sort of thing. If I'd have just sat there and let it happen, if I hadn't have forced that, then I wouldn't be where I am. And I think it's all about, I'm sure you guys know better than most, it's about putting yourselves in a situation where you get those opportunities. You can't sort of wait for them to happen. And that's very nice of Bab to say, but it's more like, if people make a good impression of you, and it's not necessarily even if they do the perfect job, it's about the attitude. And if you show a willingness to put the effort in, to put the hard yards in, and put that blood, sweat and tears in, you're going to make an impression which will last for a long time. So, there's people I've worked with at Diagonal View who I've recommended for jobs at the next place I've worked at other opportunities, that sort of thing. And it's more like, they're making your life easier by knowing that these are good people who are not only going to give you the results you want to give, but they've shown the right attitude and they've got the right sort of application.
Yeah.
So someone like, Bab is one of the people if he wanted a job opportunity, I'd recommend him because he's made such a good impression on me.
His attitude is so good.
Yeah,
it's interesting because it's one that we always say that I'm not someone that I don't usually put people forward for jobs if I know them. Yeah, because you always have that worry of people being.
Yeah, what are they gonna?
And it always relies on you. The feedback always comes back to you as the person that did it.
You're the guy I recommend.
And the one person I have done it with, put forward for a job, is Sav. And that's for exactly that same reason of it being someone that you go, actually, I know this person will apply themselves and is good at what they do. And there's almost, if one of those things where it's like, if I'm thought bad of for putting him forward, I'm going to be shocked that's the outcome. Yeah. Because I didn't see it going that way.
Because as you were saying on that podcast, you were sort of brought in to do the website and you were sort of writing articles, things like that. But once you force the opportunity and you're presenting, you're putting forward ideas, you're sort of making your own opportunities. That's how they come about.
I think it's very rare that the initial opportunity is the one you end up landing with. It's always like you'll get your foot in the door and then just work your hardest, and then it just happens, doesn't it?
It's never.
It's kind of luck as well in there a little bit.
It's all the advice, a bit cliche, but it is like putting your best foot forward, making the best impression. Never burn a bridge. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many people you work with.
Never text someone claiming that they've stole one of your ideas and then instantly ask for a collab.
Yeah. You might get forgiven. You never know. But it is,
and it's also a bit of luck as well. I think as well. Isn't it? Like timing of
definitely the timing and luck of it is it's something you can't necessarily control. But if you make as many opportunities as you can and force them, then one of them will come off.
Yeah.
But I think the especially this sort of industry you're working in, YouTube and media, digital media in London, it is quite small in a sense, and everyone sort of knows each other. It is kind of a small world.
Quite a tight-knit community.
Yeah, and everyone knows each other and everyone knows, who's that guy? Do you know that guy? So it is all based on impressions and it is all based on, the perception you give to people. And you are in control of that. And if you put your best foot forward and you show the ambition and the right attitude, then that's not, today you might not necessarily see those rewards, but the person who talks to that person, it'll come back round eventually. So you just got to be conscious of
that. To kind of bring us full circle, what's your thoughts on what Football Daily's become?
I'm.
It's better be positive, Boultwood.
Well, he's not subscribed. So.
No, I think it's amazing what it's become. It's become something more than I thought it could ever become. At the time when I was working here, as I said, it was just me and Josh, and we were sort of plugging away, and we'd sort of come up with these different sort of formats that were doing well. And I think we'd got to almost, or maybe it got to 500,000 subscribers.
Yeah, I think it was
for us, we were delighted.
Even back then, that was huge.
Yeah, we were crazy. We couldn't believe it. But I think what's good is that it's it's something more than I ever thought it could be. It's more of a brand now. You've got like a real team. You've got a real personality. You're doing something very unique. And
you're talking about 2 people. And what's the team now?
Yeah, the team now is 14.
Yeah, and you've done things that I never thought they would have done. You've got the Euro Football Daily, you've got FTFC, you've got all these sort of different sub brands. You've built something that I think is really sort of strong in its own right. That I never thought it could become. And when you look at, say, as I was saying, something like TFR earlier, a lot of blood, sweat and tears went into that, and it never realised the ambition of what it could be. Whereas it's great to see someone like yourself, you've taken the baton and run with that, along with people like Chris Hamill, etc. I'm sure Dave Jackson has obviously been sort of helping on that side of it, but you've taken it somewhere where, it is one of, if not it's one of the biggest football brands on YouTube, isn't it? One of the biggest digital brands.
It's weird because there used to be 3 or 4 in that space, but if you Slash Football used to be big, stuff like that.
Yeah,
that sort of died off. Kick was huge at one point.
Yeah, and I think those.
Then that
there's
become
a
copy
lot.
US.
There's a lot of adaptation needed on YouTube and not just YouTube, Facebook and Instagram. And stuff like that. And I think some channels just. They'll hit a big rise, and they just, I think, get quite stuck in their ways.
Yeah, you've always got to, you've always got to evolve, and you've always got to try something new. And I think you guys definitely doing that. And as I said, that's something that True Geordie's done better than anyone. To go from ranting about new players.
Mobile phone and on a ironing board.
And he's interviewing Ricky Gervais.
Mobile phone and ironing board. Yeah, exactly.
That is, that's definitely
and also to be able to the range of videos in terms of his personality that he's put across.
Yeah.
To
100%.
Think about the stuff he did when talking about the Logan Paul stuff, which was really emotional.
Yeah.
And then you see him run onto the pitch at Wembley having a wicked time.
It's mad, isn't
it? I think it's that brings me on to my last question away, because in terms of career wise. But what's one video that you'd want to make?
Ooh, God, that's hard, isn't it? What's the one video you'd want to make?
Oh,
you can inspire me. You can give me a inspiration.
A collab, no.
Collab XO on life advice.
No, I would. We've always said that it's kind of, I say it's not the one video I definitely want biggest scale possible, but just for where we are now, one thing that we've kind of all said is that we think we could do some really good on tour stuff.
Yeah.
So we've kind of wanted to do stuff like. Sav wants to go to somewhere really cold. He's always said that he wants to go to somewhere like almost Arctic, and basically just to see him in a situation like that.
That would be quite.
But fun. I think even you've got the opposite of that. Even something like if we went and did closing parties in Ibiza. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Something really fun and stupid, ambitious. Or just road tripping across the states or something, or going to the middle of nowhere, but different places around the world where you've never heard of, and just basically plotting up and being like, what's this place about?
Yeah, I definitely think we had a bit of that with in New York with XO, and it's something I did with #United in Atlanta and New York, and that sort of road trip aspect, those different sort of experiences. Definitely, I think one thing we'd like to do on XO is, when we launched, we did that documentary. It was about KSI versus Joe Weller, and it was kind of about True Geordie's journey to become a commentator in that, and how, again, he was a deep sea diver who's in this mad situation now where he's at the top of this sort of game. I think definitely more documentaries and things like that, where we're looking at different issues maybe, and start to move away a little bit from YouTube and move a little bit away from this world, and maybe into more sorts of topics that are maybe relevant to our audience. So I know something that's quite on the minds of these guys is definitely sort of like mental health among young men.
We've had a lot of it.
Yeah, so obviously, as you were just saying, True Geordie obviously was he was sort of speaking to that with his reaction to Logan Paul initially, and his sort of personal experience of that. I think also, I think everyone in this sort of space, and definitely everyone in work who's working 9 to 5 and is putting those hard yards in and is going through a different experience, has a different perspective on mental health to an extent. And I definitely think there's something that, there is something about young men don't speak about it, and they don't necessarily share their feelings and their experiences because they think they're not valued, or they think they're not valid in some way. But I think everyone has got an experience that is worth talking about, it is worth exploring.
We've wanted to do it a lot. Our only reason for not doing it yet has been, with such a delicate topic, we want to make sure you cover it right.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to rush something like that.
Yeah, but I think it's quite topical for these guys, and definitely like YouTube. YouTuber burnout is a thing that's sort of spoken about a lot, and this sort of churn to run yourself into the ground.
Yeah, I saw that Casey Neistat. Did you see the Casey Neistat video?
I haven't seen that
YouTube
one. No.
Yeah, he literally did a video yesterday or the day before on YouTube burnout.
But I think that's so. it's it's not just YouTube. It's obviously all these different sort of professions that young men are in. But I think there is like a real feeling that people of our generation are sort of burning themselves out to an extent, and there is a real physical but also sort of mental
I think there's
impact.
there's been a mindset placed on our generation and the generation below us, I think, of a lot of it also comes from things like football. But you've got your years to earn, but you have to earn what you can. You've got to get it all in there.
Yeah, there's a limited time
to make sure you're all right going forward. And so I think our generation goes into a lot of work thinking, well, especially if you're working in a revenue by demand service, like more videos equals more money.
Yeah,
it's a case of, well, I've just got to, I can't stop. I've just got to keep getting this out so that I get as much in now, so that it's always that, it's the if it falls away. It's that's the worry. If it falls apart, I've got something.
There's definitely that sort of, there is that angle of, these like middle class problems sort of thing, like you have to have a sense of perspective and say we're all very lucky to be working in media, and we're working with YouTubers, and we're making videos for a living, and we are like incredibly privileged in the grand scheme of things. But I think it's just that doesn't necessarily discount that there's troubles that you have, and there's obstacles that you meet, and there's definitely a sort of an impact to that. And I think people who sort of work in industries that they're passionate about, that doesn't necessarily mean they can't be run into the ground, they can't be burnt out, and they can't be taken advantage of, and all these sorts of things. I think it's exploring those sort of topics and different sort of things with someone like Lawrence on XO is something I think we'd definitely be interested in.
I think that's cool. In terms of a video that you'd want to make, I think that's a wicked idea.
Yeah.
I'd like to see you do it. I think you probably will, to be honest, in the next...
Yeah,
I think in the next year, from what you're talking about plan-wise, I could definitely see it.
I think, there's definitely lots of ambitious things on the horizon, and hopefully we'll get them.
Decent.
There we go. I don't know how long that was, but
I think
hopefully long enough.
About an hour 20, wouldn't we?
There we go, an hour 20. So that's pretty much it. I reckon that'll do. That'll do, donkey.
Were there any other things you wanted to cover that you think we've missed? Want to replace that bathroom light yet?
No, we don't talk about that. No, I think we've covered it all. Yeah, I think it's all good.
It is all good.
Perfect.
There you go. Thank you very much to Adam Boultwood for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And he'll be in the comments. No, he won't. Send us what you thought in the comments down below. Give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. This is the first of the new VYB podcast setup. What we're trying to do is, we've kind of said if it had a name, it would be Interesting People, pretty much, because we want to cover. We don't want to go down the route of a podcast of just big star names, and trying to get people in that it's just for clout chasing.
Yeah.
We wanted to sort of get people in and tell stories that we think, one, would have an impact on the people listening, and would be useful to know, and also just the stories that aren't necessarily told. And I think in terms of our industry, you're definitely one of them. Some of the stuff we've got coming up, some people we spoke to, some.
Do you want to give a hint?
The range of we've
drop some names.
I won't drop some. Let's just say it covers a very wide-ranging set of topics, and there's some coming up that we sort of prepare you by saying that they're very deep stories.
Yeah.
About some very hardcore issues. So, some really cool stuff.
Wow.
But this has been quality.
Nice one, Boultwood. Thanks very much for coming on.
Bit of a trip down memory lane as well for some of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Cool.
Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You might as well sign us off, because you've got the usual sign off to a podcast, haven't you?
What is it? Oh, yes. Thank you very much for watching with your eyes and listening with your ears. Goodbye.